For Syracuse men's basketball, February's in the Dome usually mean win or go home. With SU's tournament hopes in trouble, the Orange needed a win to stay on the bubble. Boston College came to town to try to play spoiler, but the Eagles' offense wasn't what you would call a broiler. The Birds shot at just 35%, and their chances to win came and went. At the end of the day, the Cuse pulled away and won 76-56 to keep its name in the tournament mix. Here in OPP, we'll tell you how the Orange got it done, and it starts right now. Welcome into Orange Press Pass. Calvin Christoforo, Spencer Pierce, and Zach Letson breaking down Syracuse's 76-56 win over Boston College. And we'll get right into it because that's what I like to do. Spencer, your first impressions on Syracuse's win?
Well, first of all, hello, Zachary. It's nice to see you
How's
here.
it going, Spencer?
My first impression is that Syracuse is wildly lucky to have played BC today because it wasn't their best game. And if you've heard me say that before, you may have watched last week's Cuse Countdown because I said the exact same thing about the first time they played Boston College. We know that Boston College is kind of the cellar dweller of the ACC right now. So a really lucky game for Syracuse to kind of have their off game again.
You touched on it a little bit, Spencer. This is a lot of what Syracuse's season has been. Good, but not great. The Orange kind of sleptwalked through this game. Sure, they won by 20. Well, they won by 20. They must have played great, right? Well, not when you're playing the Boston College Eagles, who are atrocious shooting-wise. Syracuse kind of just sleptwalked their way to a victory today.
Well, the important thing is Syracuse got it done. And Spencer, I like how you think the Orange are lucky to play the team that's on their schedule. But hey, the Orange going to in the Dome, trying to get a win over Boston College team they beat just last week. And they get going really early because Cole Swider goes to the basket, lays it up and in. That puts Syracuse up 4-2 early in the first. Joe Girard gets into it. He steps in, cashes a jumper. That's a 9-4 Syracuse lead. You haven't seen a Boston College highlight on offense because really there wasn't many BC highlights on offense in the first half. BC goes for 21 points in the first, and that's the reason why. Barama Sidibe out of nowhere slaps it away, and then Buddy Boeheim gets in the passing lane. That's one of 10 Syracuse steals in half number one, and it puts the Orange up by 15 points, 36-21 after one. In the second, more of the same, just some different names. Ball's in the ground. Who's got it? Frank Anselm lays it up and in. That puts Syracuse up by 20 points early in the second. This is a really tough bucket by Aiden Zachary, trying to get the Birds back into it. Makes it a 12-point game, but Syracuse had this game won at that point. Little give and go. Cole Swider, don't you know, knocks it down. Syracuse back up by 20. And then a little cherry on top here at the end. Up ahead, Patty Casey in transition. The D2 transfer lays it up and in. Count it and one. Syracuse wins 76-56 to improve to 8-7 in ACC play. Jimmy Boeheim, Buddy Boeheim, Cole Swider, Spencer, big reasons why.
Yeah, well, I have a feeling we'll probably be talking about those two guys on the right side of the screen, but the word I want to give today is efficiency. You'll hear it now, you'll hear it later in the show, but 18 points from both of them, from your main scorers, that's got to be huge.
I think efficiency is the perfect way to describe it, and quite frankly, when you look at what Cole Swider's done these last 6 games, that screams efficiency. Sure, they both finished with 18 points, but the kind of turnaround for Syracuse these past few games, Cole Swider's been the big reason why.
It's a big win for Syracuse, gets them above 500 in ACC play, and someone in the Dome for CitrusTV with there. That would be the handsome Sam Lebowitz. Sam, so glad you can join us. My question for you is Boston College really didn't have much of anything going on the offensive end in the first half. Just 21 points, but DeMar Langford had 10 of those points on 4 of 5 shooting. The only problem was we didn't see him in the second half. What happened to Langford, and how did that switch up the Boston College offense with him off the floor?
Well, Calvin, appreciate the compliment, by the way. Langford left this game with a toe injury. BC says it should be minor, shouldn't keep him out for very long. That's why he wasn't in the game in the second half. In terms of the impact that his absence had on this game, I'm not really sure there was much impact. You mentioned the 10 points, but he was a difference maker in that first half. But if you look at the game in general, this was one of the finer efforts by the Syracuse defense all season. They held BC to below 18% from three-point range in this game. So, yes, BC, not a very strong offensive team, about 12th in the ACC in scoring. Syracuse was very, very good on the defensive side, so I'm not sure if it really mattered if Langford came out in the second half or not. I don't think it impacts the final score of this game all too much.
Sam, Syracuse has won its last 3 home games at the Dome by an average of 22 points. And by the way, they beat a good Wake Forest team and Louisville. And we've seen students and fans alike break the attendance records over and over. So how would you say that the team is feeding off of the fans' energy right now?
Well, I'll speak to today's game. It was a really nice daytime crowd for a middle of the day on a Saturday, and the crowd was really in this game the whole way through, especially considering it was a blowout. I was quite frankly impressed by how much they stayed in this game. You heard Calvin talk about Patty Casey there at the end of the highlights. When he got those points in the last minute of this game, the crowd went nuts for him. There was tons of support. The crowd was in this game from the first tip-off until the last minute of this game. In terms of the advantage that Syracuse gets from this home crowd, I think we got to wait a week because we got Duke coming up next Saturday here in the Dome. That should be a near record-breaking crowd or a record-breaking crowd, both on the student and the non-student type of fan aspect. I think if Syracuse is able to get energy from the crowd in that Duke game, then we can really say that Syracuse has a home court advantage for sure.
Now, Sam, the big story for Syracuse these last couple games has been the absence of Jesse Edwards, and this is the first home game since he's been out for the season. How has Syracuse adjusted? Because Frank Anselem and Barama Sidibe basically split their minutes today. How did Buddy Boeheim and Joe Girard kind of defer to each one in different ways?
Sure. So Jim said post-game that Frank took a step backwards today. I'd have to agree with him. He was playing a little slower. He wasn't playing as efficiently on either side of the ball. And that's why Barama got into this game. A long time coming for Sidibe, the 18 minutes in this game, the most he's had in basically 2 years due to the injuries that he's had. In terms of the impact that Sidibe had on the court with Frank having an off day, there was impact. I mean, both defensively and offensively, you saw the swats that he had knocking balls away. Sidibe played pretty well. Jim said that he's starting to get his footing under him, thinks that every time he gets out there, he's going to get a little more comfortable. And he came out onto the court in that first round of substitutions with Symir Torrance. Shout out Leo Silverman, big fan of Symir. Symir was playing with so much energy at the point that it was hard for Sidibe to even think. He just had to get into the action. He didn't have a chance to settle in. I think that helped. And the Syracuse offense with Sidibe under center, you mentioned the guards. They played much better. It was really playing dividends for Syracuse with Barama on the court today.
Well, Sam, thank you so much for your time. We're just getting started here on Orange Press Pass. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Syracuse defense. Was it good defense or bad BC offense? We'll tell you on the other side.
One in 3 adults has pre-diabetes. That means it could be you, your favorite brother, your other brother, you, your football buddy, your football buddy, you, your plumber,
Breathe right into your foot.
your plumber's masseuse,
Yes.
you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. With early diagnosis, pre-diabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Welcome back into Orange Press Pass, OPP, as the kids like to call it. Calvin Christoforo, Spencer Pierce, and Zach Letson riding shotgun with you. And guys, Syracuse gets the win today, 76-56 over Boston College. The Eagles don't break the 60-point mark again this season. They only shot at 35% on the floor, Spencer. What make you of that?
All right, well, I'm going to play a little devil's advocate here on behalf of BC's side. I just don't think that they're that good of a team. We saw at halftime they had made one three-pointer, 1 of 14, 7%. You know, you can have as good of defense as you want, but I really am not convinced that Syracuse is going to be able to hold teams like Duke and Notre Dame to less than 60 points. That's not happening.
Breaking news, Boston College is a horrendous shooting team. They came in, Spencer, as the 14th ranked team in the ACC in shooting percentage. What did we learn that was new today? Absolutely nothing. It was about that bad. And sure, Syracuse did a nice job on the perimeter inside playing defense, but it really was a huge story about just how much BC's offense has just struggled.
And so we were on BC's side there. Let's give a little bit of leniency to Syracuse because they did in fact play some good defense today, and we actually have a play to break it down. So Zach, let's start us off here.
Yeah. So Syracuse, when you saw the very start of that play, they were crowding the inside when you have the 3-2 zone. But look how quickly Barama Sidibe is able to get out into that corner. Spencer, that was extremely impressive for me because Barama, this is one of the first games he's played in that interior, of course, without Jesse Edwards, and his ability to get out there quickly kind of proved. I mean, Syracuse, they had the interior defense, but they were just as strong on the perimeter.
And Barama, the knees look good, by the way, buddy.
Look great.
Barama with a season-high 18 minutes. Spencer, my memory's a little fuzzy here. How many threes did BC have in the first half?
What's that? Sources are saying 1.
One. Okay,
Wow.
1 3. Okay, I'm glad we got that cleaned up. That was the Syracuse defense. The Syracuse offense was really good because their 2 forwards were, well, really good. Buddy Boeheim and Cole Swider combined for 36 points, 18 apiece. A super duo, you might call them, Zach Letson.
Yeah, I mean, but this is like what they've been on lately, Calvin, has been something to watch. These two, this is what Syracuse fans were hoping to get with Buddy Boeheim at the beginning of the season. It's all come into fruition lately for Buddy Boeheim. I think for Cole Swider, it's been a little bit more of a surprise. Syracuse fans were hopeful, but they really hadn't seen it. This is a guy that had struggled mightily until the last 6 games of the season for Syracuse. You look at Buddy Boeheim, you see how his season kind of changed a little bit in those final 6 games. That's what the trend was for Cole Swider and for Buddy Boeheim. But for Buddy, it started with that 30-point game against Wake Forest. Since then, he's been the guy that has been the engine of this offense. Sure, maybe Joe Girard's taken it up the court. This offense goes through its best scorer, and its best scorer is Buddy Boeheim.
Oh yeah, massive retweet, and you hit the nose on the head. These are the guys that we thought we were getting, especially Buddy Boeheim. We thought he was going to win ACC Player of the Year, at least be on the first team. Now with all that those recent trends, it's looking better. And you look at Cole, he kind of took over Jimmy's role almost in the offense. And now we see Jimmy kind of just standing there, being the guy, filling the body space. But Cole has been really, really efficient lately. Like I said before, I told you, you were going to hear that word again.
So Syracuse got a big production today from their 2 known commodities, but there's 2 guys who are not really known. After Jesse Edwards went down, the center position has become really foggy for Jim Boeheim and company. A split in minutes today between Frank Anselem and Barama Sidibe. Coach Boeheim, your thoughts on the center position?
He's practiced the whole practice. He hasn't come out. He hasn't had to go in the locker room or training room for the whole practice for a couple, 2-3 weeks now at least. He's just, his timing's not quite there. Balls that he would normally catch and put in, he's just not quite there yet. Again, I thought Frank took a step backwards today. He's got to be better than this. He had a great game at Virginia Tech, but he's got to do the again. You know, he was disappeared. Frank, I just didn't think he was rebounding. I didn't think he was moving the way he needs to. He's got to be consistent. He's got to go out there and rebound for us, and play defense and rebound.
So Frank Anselem, coming off a 15-rebound performance, a career high, only had 3 today to go along with 3 points. Well, Barama Sidibe got the mix again. Who thought I'd be saying that again? He played 18 minutes today. Spencer, what do you make of this center split we saw?
I don't know. Well, it's really hard to go from riches to rags, and riches, of course, being Jesse Edwards. But what Jim needs to realize is that these are not your stat sheet stuffers. Frank, JBA, Benny, those aren't the guys that are going to fill up the stat sheet. And we know Buddy's going to shoot the ball, Cole's going to shoot the ball. So as long as they're playing defense, as long as they're kind of having some sort of resemblance of being a big man out there, I'm fine with that.
I mean, this idea that you're going to go from Jesse Edwards to Frank Anselem and Barama Sidibe and not miss a beat, quite frankly, it's laughable. You have to understand there's going to be some growing pains. There's going to be a moment, and sure, you know, this is that point in the season where you need guys to step up. So that's I think why Jim is being as hard as he is. But quite frankly, it's going to take time, and they got the interior defense part of it done today.
Well, defense and time is something Syracuse really doesn't have at this point in the season. The centers today were meh, I'll say, but you know who wasn't? Cole Swider wasn't meh. He's our Orange Press Pass Player of the Game. Can I get a round of applause for Cole Swider? Swider, our player of the game with 18 points this afternoon. We're going to get to another break here on OPP, but when we come back, we're playing some Mad Libs. You like Mad Libs? I'll do it. Our next block will be blank. You would throw in fun. Our next block will be fun. Don't go anywhere. OPP is rolling on.
OTN is on all your favorite apps: Apple TV, Fire TV, and Roku. Search Orange Television Network or OTN. OTN has its best shows, short films, and CitrusTV on demand. Family and friends can watch OTN too. Watch the live stream of OTN to catch live CitrusTV news, live from Studio B, and mornings on the Hill. On or off campus, watch OTN anywhere.
They took over my bedroom. Come on, come on. Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. Dad! You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
There's really only one thing better than an OPP after a Syracuse win. That's an OPP with Calvin Christoforo, Spencer Pierce, and Zach Letson. And you're watching it as we roll on. And guys, we're going to play a little bit of a game called Mad Libs. You know, the kids' game where I say whatever, blank, and you fill it in. I'll start, Spencer, I'll start you off with the teaser. Calvin Christoforo is the best host since?
Mike Tirico.
But see, that's a good start. That's a good start. So I'll go back to you because since you did so good in your first one, Syracuse's win today was
meaningless. What's the point? What are we doing here, right? It doesn't matter. This was a game that you're supposed to win. Other than boosting your overall record for the tournament and boosting your ACC record for the ACC tournament, does it really matter? Like I said, you're supposed to be beating this team. I'll believe it when they're beating good teams like Notre Dame, UNC, stuff like that, but I'm not sold. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, this was a win that, in one word, was expected for Syracuse. Right. Like you said, meaningless. It was expected. When you watch this game and you come out of the game, what do you think of that's differently before when you walked in? There's absolutely nothing. It was the same kind of performance that we've seen. Sure, they're going to get their starters mostly involved and have 4 different guys in double figures, but you turn it over 11 times in the first half. It was an ugly game for Syracuse and a win that, quite frankly, they were expected to get.
Right.
This is one of those wins, guys, where if you get the victory, it really doesn't mean much, but if you lose, your season's quite frankly over. So it's a good thing Syracuse got it done today, and they did behind their point guard, Joe Girard, who had 16 points on the afternoon. But looking at his whole season in general, Joe Girard's year this year has been...
I think it's been promising. What we've seen compared to what we saw him have last year, listen, Joe Girard has always had the confidence to be great. But comparing his numbers from last year to his numbers this year, heck, he's the second best three-point shooter in the entire ACC. He's finally got the numbers to back up why he, quite frankly, will try to channel his inner Steph Curry from game to game. This is a guy that will try to pull up from 35 to 40 feet. He's finally got the numbers when you look at a shooting standpoint. 41% from 3, almost 14 points a game to finally lead the offense and to be the headliner for someone. I mean, this is a shooting-heavy team, and Joe Girard's a huge reason why.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to say his season is redeeming. You know, he's taking his seat at Alice's restaurant, and he's sitting and he's eating for a full 18 minutes. Every single stat you saw on that full screen was improved from last year. Now, I know I lobbied a little bit for Symir Torrance to get that starting nod, but that doesn't mean Joe's got to go out of the lineup. Maybe run a little small lineup, put him at the 2, because we know the man likes to chuck. And that was the problem last year. But, you know, chuck away, Joe.
This guy, Spencer, bringing out the Alice's restaurant references. I like, your 60s music. Hey, you can get anything you want over at Alice's restaurant, I'll tell you that much. But Syracuse, probably not going to get much as you look down the stretch at the end of their season. They have 5 really, really tough games to close out the year, Spencer. This last 5-game stretch for Syracuse is
impossible. Now, remember what Kevin Garnett said? Anything is possible. I don't buy it, not for a single second. You're going to look at teams like I've mentioned a few times already. Notre Dame, Duke, even, Miami, who, Zach, big Miami stan. I know, I'll give you your flowers on that one, but Duke, they're not beating you. Even with the home court advantage and everything. Notre Dame is a sneaky, really good team this year. I mean, I think they can beat Georgia Tech, but like it's similar to this game. Who cares? You're probably supposed to beat Georgia Tech, so just do it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you see on your screen, Duke humiliated Syracuse earlier this year. This schedule for Syracuse coming up, quite frankly, it's scary. That's my one word for this. Notre Dame's had an outstanding year. Miami, of course, remember the Miami game, Syracuse played a horrible second half in that game, blew a 14-point lead. All 3 of those teams have had a much better year than Syracuse, and it's going to be very tough for them down the stretch.
Shout out Charlie Moore.
Talk about a couple of haters. That's with the Z at the end, too. And leave it to Spencer, the Knicks fan, to throw shade on Kevin Garnett. Look, Spencer, we get it. The Knicks, once again, are not relevant this season. I get that jab in there here talking Syracuse basketball. But we'll move on the other side. We got one more break coming up for you, and we're going to wrap things up. We'll put a bow on it when we come back. We'll look ahead. We'll look back. We'll tell you about the future of Syracuse men's hoops when OPP comes back.
Performing on stage takes mental and physical preparation. But one thing I never thought to prepare for was cervical cancer. 91% of cervical cancers are caused by the human papillomavirus, or HPV. For many people, HPV hides inside them and they never develop symptoms. But for others, HPV links directly to cancer. My cancer almost ended my career. It almost ended me. The good news is there are vaccines that can protect you or your children from cancer. The HPV vaccine is recommended for 11 to 12-year-olds, and a catch-up vaccine may be an option for teens and young adults. Talk to your doctors. You don't want HPV hiding inside your body like HPV has been hiding inside this commercial. Did you see all of them? Go to thinkaboutthelink.org to look again and learn more. Together, we can stop cancer before it starts.
Three turns down here on Orange Press Pass and 1 to go. Calvin Christoforo, Spencer Pierce, and Zach Letson with you. Breaking down Syracuse's 76-56 win in the Dome this afternoon over Boston College. A win the Orange needed to get to stay on the bubble, I guess. It might be a little bit of a giving term for this Syracuse team this year. As we take a look at games around the nation that some other teams on the bubble are playing in. Spencer, what sticks out to you up on the board?
Well, what sticks out to me is just how many teams the Big East is going to have representing them in March Madness. We look at 2 teams right there, UConn, Xavier. Think of Marquette. Think of Villanova. Think of Seton Hall. Think of Providence. How about Providence in the top 10? And like I said before, let's watch out for the DePaul Blue Demons. Calvin said no. Calvin said no. Georgetown won the Big East tournament. Watch me be right. Bookmark it.
Well, what sticks out to me is, I mean, Notre Dame, like you see on your screen, they lose to Wake Forest. They had trouble with Boston College before Boston College came to the Dome. It shows how inconsistent the ACC is, and it's so wide open. Of course, Syracuse beat Wake Forest. They haven't played Notre Dame yet. That's coming up on the docket. But the other thing is, I mean, these games just don't mean as much to Syracuse right now as they would normally in the month of February.
This guy Spencer just said DePaul is a chance at the NCAA tournament. Dave Lato's not walking through that door, Spencer, I'll tell you that much. But as we flip ahead to the ACC standings, we see Syracuse right in that middle tier, Zach.
Yeah, I mean, Syracuse, like you said, right in the middle. This is as much of a mess as the ACC has been that I can remember, Spencer, quite frankly. You have Duke, and then the drop-off between Duke and number 2, which right now is Notre Dame and a tie with Miami, is drastic. If you're looking for positives as a Syracuse fan, you could just point to how wide open things are right now. And so that side of it is intriguing, but what a mess of a year it's been.
Well, I'm going to take the pessimist route, as I always do. Look at the top 4 teams in the standings. You know what they all have in common? Yeah, they still have to play Syracuse, and it's not really so much have to play Syracuse. It's Syracuse has to play them. So I you know, we could beat it into the ground, but not looking too pretty the rest of the way.
Look, Spencer, you hate fun, and we get that. But let's look ahead to that Syracuse schedule coming up. And it starts with Georgia Tech, a team that went from winning the conference a season ago to a cellar dweller this year. Spencer, do the Jackets have any shot at beating the Orange?
Absolutely not. I'm going to take a Calvin Christoforo-ism and say Jose Alvarado is not walking through that door, and we know how big he was for the Yellow Jackets last year. I think Syracuse will win this game, but I think, you know, I can reiterate it again. I think this is the last game that they win for the rest of the season.
Yeah, a lot of the kids these days might look at Georgia Tech's ACC championship last year and call it a Mickey Mouse ACC championship, because quite frankly, it kind of was a little bit. But listen, you talked about it. Syracuse, this is by far the easiest game they have the rest of the way. They have to take advantage, and on their home floor, I really think they will.
Jackets come to the Dome on a 3-game losing streak as well, and that's at 11 o'clock OPP for you night owls coming back here on Monday night. But let's wrap up Syracuse's win over Boston College. Spencer, your final thoughts on today's W.
I just don't believe it. I got to see it for real this time. You know, we've said it so many times, and we just looked at the ACC standings. They're going to play those top 4 teams. Let me see it for real. They lost Jesse Edwards. Let me see the interior presence on both sides of the ball really step up. Let me see Joe continue having these good games. Let me see Buddy. You know, you looked at that Buddy full screen. He only had 7 points against Duke, so he's got to really step it up. Him, Cole, Joe are the 3 guys I'm going to look at the most. Yeah,
they did enough to win today, Spencer, but quite frankly, the front court didn't do enough offensively to beat any of them. We just talked about how tough of a schedule they have coming up. They didn't do enough. When you look at Frank Anselm down low, you look at Barama Sidibe down low, 2 points and 2 points. That's just not going to cut it. That offense has to get it done going forward.
All right, so Spencer, I think I know your answer here, but Zach, 5 games left for Syracuse. What's the record the Orange are going to finish with down the stretch here in those last 5 games?
That's tough. I'm going to go 3-2 for the Orange in those last 2. I think they beat Georgia Tech. And then I think in those games, I think Notre Dame is kind of an inconsistent team. That's where I think it can get interesting for Syracuse, because what do we know, Spencer? They get hot at the end of the year.
Yeah, in the end of years that are normal. Is this a normal year?
North Carolina too.
I'm saying 1-4. I think Kelvin knew exactly that I was going to say that. They're going to beat Georgia Tech. They're going to lose out, and then they're going to lose in the first. We'll see about the ACC tournament, actually. Maybe
Notre Dame and North Carolina both pretty
bad. But, oh, man, 3-2. You kind of misled me the entire show. Just to hit me with a 3-2, 1-4. Put it on the docket.
Spencer is flabbergasted, like when he sees those low prices over at Alice's restaurant. He is just thrown off. Zach, hey, for the record, I agree with you. I got Syracuse going 3-2 down the stretch, and the Orange are going to need to do that if they want to have any shot to make the NCAA tournament. That's all the time we have left on OPP for Calvin Christoforo, Zach Letson, and Spencer Pierce. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.